If you like this video, why not subscribe? Hey everybody, welcome back to the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. That's the show where you send me questions and I attempt to answer them. If you'd like your question read on this show, please send one to me at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer you via email and potentially on this show as well. But using that email address is the best way. You can also make comments below and I'll do my best to interact with you there. At any rate, I'll do my best to answer your questions. As far as the last episode on this channel was, it was a review of the AA battery adapter that goes into the Sony F970 shell. So if you use those batteries for applications like powering your camera, your monitor, or your LED lights, you can now do the same exact thing with AA batteries. 6 of them fit into that shell. I did a little review of that if you'd like to check that out. I'll leave a link below. It's the last video I made. Also an annotation on the screen, and many of you pointed out, or several of you pointed out, how energetic I was in that episode. And I appreciate that. The difference between that episode and the ones I typically make are that one was done at about 11 a.m. during the day on Friday. It was my day off, so I was able to do that, opposed to most episodes like this one where I'm doing them late at night and I'm usually sapped of energy. So I wish I could do all my episodes during the day at that time. It'd be awesome if I could do this full time. That's when I would do them because, as you can see, there's quite a difference between my energy level of that episode and possibly this one or others, where I act quite tired. It's not an act, actually. Now, another person recently asked about the llama in the background here. I know I've answered this before. What are these behind me? That's the Story People. It's a series of artwork and sayings that my wife really likes, and I like them too, and they're around our house in various places. But if you Google the Story People, you'll see the origin of this type of stuff. I'm not sure what that is. I'm pretty sure it's not a llama, but it's just a surrealist person or something. Anyway, let's go right into the questions today. Our first one is from Rob Young, who asks, I'm considering purchasing some vintage lenses, i.e. pre-1980s area, because I've noticed how many of them are available at a cheap price on eBay. Do you own any? And if you do, could you put up some test footage? Well, Rob, I do own several vintage lenses. Here's one. This is a Vivitar Series 1 lens. That's a 28 to 90 zoom, I believe. Yes, f2.8. It's a really nice lens. It's made mostly of metal, and it is 1980s era, maybe a little before that. This thing is built like a tank. It is very heavy, but it's a good sharp lens that is fairly fast for a zoom. And I really like vintage lenses, as many of you have known. If you've been following my channel at all, you know that I like them very much. I adapted them to my Sony NEX5N, mostly Minolta lenses. That's what I've got. Like this one, a lot of primes. If you're looking for test footage, you can just look at my last 2 short films. Invader was shot with Minolta primes on an NEX5N, and then Collection Day was also shot with those very same lenses on a Sony FS700. So if you compare those 2 movies, one hopefully looks a lot better, and that's the more expensive camera. The FS700 I actually rented for that film. And it's an $8,000 camera. Actually, now it's a $6,000 camera because the price just dropped dramatically as Sony is constantly introducing new cameras. And then Invader was shot with the more economical NEX5N. So if you check out both of those movies, they're shot with the same lenses. You can get an idea what you can do with those lenses. I kind of like vintage lenses not only because they're inexpensive, although not as inexpensive as they were a couple of years ago, now that the value has gone up because they're so easily adapted to digital cameras now. Everybody's buying them and driving the price up. So check out those movies if you're interested in some test footage, because it's all Minolta glass, both those films, just different cameras. Okay, our next question comes from Matt Garman, who asks about one of those films, Collection Day. Actually, he asks, now that you've worked with a little larger production, does it make it easier or more difficult to go back and shoot things the more frugal route? Well, one cool thing I learned from shooting Collection Day, which is definitely a film school type of movie, as far as it was quite different how that movie was made compared to other films I had shot that were, as you mentioned, more frugal, because Collection Day is not really a frugal filmmaker film. It was shot more like a Hollywood film, meaning it had more kind of established crew positions, and I did it in a certain way. It was reviewed in stages by a committee, things like that, where the film following that, Invader, was definitely kind of more of a hybrid. I took a lot of things I learned in film school and more Hollywood style, and it kind of integrated them with the frugal way of shooting that I had previously. So I would definitely say it wasn't more difficult going back to the frugal route, as you say, but it was a better experience. Actually, I had a bigger crew on Invader than I did on Collection Day, just because Invader was shot in 2 days. It was much easier to schedule people for a 2-day shoot versus a 10-day shoot, which is what Collection Day had. So people kind of came and went during that movie. For Invader, it was more of a locked crew, and I had actually hands to spare. That movie was also different in the fact that I shot the film myself, because my normal DP, who I'd worked with on Collection Day, for example, was working on his own thesis film and wasn't available, so I shot it myself, which is what I did with everything pre-film school. I felt like I knew what I was doing more in that film than I did with any other film previously, because it was just a combination of all the experience I had pre-film school, and post-film school. So there's your answer. Our next letter comes from Jamie Trujillo, who asks, I'm facing a sound problem with my compact camera, Sony WX350. It records stereo sound and even has an option for reducing wind noise when recording. Once I import the files to Sony Vegas, the background sound intensifies a lot, as if it was filmed in the middle of a working factory. Is there any kind of filter, physical filter, for the internal mic of the actual camera? Well, I didn't quite look up your camera here, Jamie, but I have an idea about what you're talking about. It just sounds like, for one thing, your camera has auto gain control or auto level control, meaning that you're setting your microphone, or there is no setting, it's just automatically ALC or AGC, auto gain control, which means that the camera is going to adjust itself for sound, meaning if there's no sound, it's going to crank the gain way up to try and hear something. And if there is sound, it's going to bring it down, kind of like an auto iris type of thing. It's just automatic, so automatic level control. So if you have no control over that, meaning you can't switch it to manual and kind of ride levels depending on how loud your sound is coming into the camera, there isn't a whole lot you can do, although you do mention some kind of a physical filter, maybe for wind noise or other noise, and there is something you can do there. In fact, there's a great solution mentioned a long time ago by Knoptop, who has his own channel here on YouTube. And he basically took some faux fur and attached them right to the microphone on the camera, kind of some kind of putty or cement or something. I can't remember exactly how he did it, but I'll leave a link to his video below. And it's essentially acts as a fuzzy windscreen or a Deadcat for your internal mic. So if wind blows on the camera, it's greatly reduced by the hairs that are on the faux fur that are stuck to your microphone. So that's a great solution. Again, there's not a whole lot you can do. If you don't have manual control of your microphone, it's a great detriment to your sound, because you've completely lost control of it. The camera's going to do everything, and that's typically bad. I think technology's definitely improved over the years, so that auto gain control isn't as horrible as it once was, but the best sound you can get, especially with a camera like that, is just to bypass the internal microphones and use double system sound, get a separate recorder and a microphone, and just sync them later in post. And I realize that takes more work and sometimes an extra person, but your sound will always be better. However, if you are going to go that route and you did want that filter, as I mentioned, you can use the faux fur attachment thing. Again, check the video down below to see how Knoptop did it. All right, our next two questions come from some YouTube comments. The first one is from the Painter's Pole adapter video, and 00 Skyfox says, I missed the Frugal Filmmaker DIY project intro music. And that's not really a question, but I thought I would address it, because some people have said, hey, what happened to the music? Everybody liked the music. It was sort of a riff on the A-Team. And one thing I've been trying to do with this channel is to make my videos more concise, shorter and shorter, so that I will be able to retain some viewers out there and they won't disappear on a longer video, but might stick around for a shorter video. So I've done everything I can to trim my videos down, and one of them is to get rid of that 10-second intro, because even though I agree the music's cool, it takes up 10 seconds of time that people might be tuning out or skipping ahead in the timeline or whatever. So I've just tried to shorten my videos since then to just make them more watchable. Another comment I had was from our last Q&A episode, where Jonathan Alcaraz asks, why don't you edit with headphones? That would be better than speakers, wouldn't it? The problem with editing on headphones classically is typically said, don't edit on headphones. Don't edit sound on headphones, because it's going to be too detailed and not going to be real world enough to where this actually, your video plays in front of an audience, they're going to hear it through speakers. So you want to be able to edit and set your sound cues and everything else through speakers, because that's what everybody else is hearing. So you're going to adjust to that. However, I would also note that since more and more things are being seen on mobile devices, like your phone, headphones are going to be attached to that, or earbuds, and that's what you're going to be hearing. I still like to edit if I'm going to do a project. If I'm going to do something simple like this, I'm going to be doing it on headphones, because it's usually late at night when everyone's trying to sleep and I'm trying to edit video and I have to have headphones on since I don't have my own room to do this, and blah, 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 blah. But when I'm mixing a film, like Invader, the last thing I did, all the post-production sound on that, I did pull out my monitors, my monitor speakers, so that I could hear what the sound actually sounded like through speakers, since I felt that that's where people would probably hear it, on their computers. Now, some people obviously saw the film on a mobile device like a phone, but speakers I still think are the go-to way you want to edit your movie. You don't want to edit on headphones. However, you can always start on headphones and then graduate to speakers if you have them. Everybody has headphones or earbuds or something, but I wouldn't eliminate speakers entirely, because there is going to be some of your audience that is going to hear things through the speakers, and some of them will hear them on headphones. So you want to make sure that your sound is good on both things. When I used to work at a TV station, the audio mixer, the sound guy, always had a really crappy mono speaker in the sound booth, because you could always check the sound on the worst possible speaker. And in those days it was mono, like on a mono television. An old TV would have a mono speaker. Plus you could always check for phase errors and that kind of thing, where in stereo everything might sound great, but in mono, if there was a phase issue, left and right would cancel each other out, and the only way to hear that is on a mono speaker. If it's a YouTube video that's simple like this, a blog video, vlog, whatever, headphones are probably fine. But if you're doing any kind of narrative storytelling or serious sound mixing, then you definitely need to get yourself some speakers. That's all the questions I have for today. Remember, if you'd like your question read on this show, you'd like to ask me a question, please send it to thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to read it. Or you can comment below, but your best bet is the email address. Also, if you'd like to check out more Frugal Filmmaker stuff, like DIY tips, tricks, short films, all that kind of stuff, please come to thefrugalfilmmaker.com. That's the blog, kind of the hub of all my material. There's also the Facebook group, Twitter, and of course the YouTube channel. Links below in the description for all that stuff. There's also a video coming this week, and Thursday or Friday. I'm actually going to try and release stuff earlier in the week, maybe Wednesday even. Maybe I'm getting kind of radical, releasing things earlier in the week. But you'll have a Q&A video every Monday, and then a regular DIY or film or something else on Thursday. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.